let's get to one of my favorite chapters is how to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I mean it resonated with me, especially you resonated with me the first time when you mentioned like I don't really like to leave much up to the universe. And I'll
Right.
tell you why for myself. Like I used to I used to do the whole like Joe Dispenza, sit down, meditate, visualize what you
Yeah.
want forever. Okay. Let me tell you something. Forever never came. It never came. It never showed up. Right.
Right.
And it was just so interesting because I would do it like I just have to get up at 3 in the morning and do this meditation exercise. You don't get any, I don't care what anyone says. The meditation has to be one of the easiest things ever. You just sit there. Okay. That's it. That's all you gotta do, right?
Right.
I'll take that over rocking any day. I just sit there.
Yeah.
And so I would get up 3 in the morning. That's when he says you should know you should get up and you should do this and you should be shifting your thoughts into a positive thought of like I am money, money comes to me, or oh I'm when I was acting at the time, and seeing myself in those big blockbusters and all that stuff. And then you do it for 5 years and you're like, I'm still in the same spot. Like I haven't moved, right?
Right.
And it's just like, well, it's because you haven't taken any action. They forget that part. They
Right.
leave that part out, because they need the money. And then they want you to keep coming back because you do feel good.
Yeah.
Shifts do happen. Like I'm not gonna say like they don't, but it's not like a whole like life change. It's like, I find $5 on the street and I'm like, oh my God, this is from me manifesting, right? And it's like
Right.
that's where your mind goes,
Yeah.
right? But in reality, we're not taking the action that we need to be in control and take control. And, like we talked about earlier, when you jump into that cold shower and your brain wants to get out and you're like, no, I'm in control of me, right?
Right.
What we don't talk and we haven't talked about was it you have to go through the exercises to get to the point where you control you. You have to get to the point of um going through the types of exercises that you need to be in control of your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. So you don't react. So you do, so you do go to the gym when you want to go to
Right.
the gym. Now, you do the things you want to do, no matter if you're tired or sad or whatever is going on in your life, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's why they say business doesn't belong in emotions. Well, because your business isn't going to succeed if you're dictating it based off your emotions, just like
Exactly.
your life isn't going to do the same thing.
Right.
So I want you to talk about this chapter on how to make it happen and why you need action and why you are in control of you, not the universe in control of you.
Something I'm sure all my clients are tired of hearing it, but I'm like, there's really only two things you can control in this world, and that is your thoughts and your actions. Everything else is kind of not under your control. So that's good and bad news. It's good news because, like, all right, that's not your problem then, it's bad news because, like, a lot can happen that you have zero control over. But in order to make it happen, I think it's important to have a very clear path and an organized layout of how you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. Like when I was going through the Q course, one of the blocks of instruction, SUT, it was all about planning. We have a mission given to us by a commander, say, hey, I need you to conduct a raid at this point, no later than this time. Well, as soon as we got that, we now have a process. We have to backwards plan all the way up until the moment we're living in right now. Like, what are all of the steps that are required for mission success at that deadline, at that hit time? We can't just wing it. It requires like well thought out and delegation of various people, like working as a whole platoon, a lot of moving pieces, right? As a solo individual, the process is still the same. If my desired end state is XYZ in 5 years or 12 months or 90 days, if that's my desired end state, I need to backwards plan up until today. Like, what do I need to make happen today and then tomorrow and then the day after to stay on track to ensure or to create a greater likelihood of success once that hit time comes. And that's kind of how I laid out the chapter. I talk about the identity. Once that's established, then go through creating goals. And I use the SMART acronym, which is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. Somebody else way smarter than me came up with that, and I use it because it works. And I think sometimes people struggle with setting goals because they don't get specific enough. Because the brain, when you give it a problem, that's what it starts to solve. So, for example, if you tell me, hey, my financial goal is to be rich, you have told me nothing, you know. And now the brain is trying to solve that problem, but it has no left and right limit to within which to operate. If you then instead told me like, hey, I want to become a real estate investor in 12 months, I want to have, 7 rental properties that are producing X number of dollars per month. I have a property management team set in place so I don't have to change, unclog toilets or whatever. And you've given me like some specifics. Now the brain is starting to solve that problem, which is very different. And it gives it some like parameters within which to operate. And now it's like, okay, if in 12 months that's my desired end state, what has to happen these first 6 months? And then this first month, and then this first week. Maybe when you break it all the way down to daily actions, maybe today's action is start calling up or realtor friends and see if they have, multifamily properties or commercial real estate or whatever. And then the next day is like, all right, how do I start acquiring the ability to purchase that with a down payment? Maybe I use a private money lender, and you start making phone calls. But all of that, it still requires like a plan. And so if you know what your desired end state is and can then backwards plan and write out specifically what each of those steps are, there's a greater likelihood of success. And I say that because as I prefaced all of this with, there's a great deal outside of our control. Life happens sometimes, and it throws a monkey wrench into things that we did not anticipate or hope for. And you have to be able to adjust around that. Sometimes that means that door is closed and you have to change your goal. And sometimes it just means you need to navigate around it.